Okay, now we're going to really focus on the ethical side of Taoism here. Remember, ethical as an ethos, as a general way of life, a general approach to the world that allows you to enrich the world for yourself, not ethics in terms of here's 10 bad things you'll go to hell for, or here's 20 things that are required of you as a student. Not rules and morality, but an attitude towards life that will enrich your life. That's how we mean ethics or ethos. So section 14, we get a good one for this. It says, in living, honor the land. I think you can see how you could base an environmental ethics out of Daoism. In living, honor the land. In thinking, be deep. In speech, be truthful. In working, be skillful. When dealing with others, be compassionate. Okay? As I just said in a prior recording, these things are written so that you can memorize them if you want. They're written so that when you're in a bad way or a tough situation, you can go, wait, what does the Tao tell me? What does Daoism tell me? Ah, yes. Compassion, truth, being deep, and honoring. These are core values. Okay, yes, I've reminded myself of my core values through repetition. Okay? That's good. That's great. I will again float the objection not because I think Taoism is wrong, but I want you to think of objections so that you can either double your commitment to the ideas or move away from the ideas you don't agree with. And it helps if I raise a question for you to nudge you down that path. Okay? What I would say is, yes, this passage is easy to memorize, but it's also very general, isn't it? How do I honor the land? Do I honor the land I'm on right now, or do I somehow honor the entire universe? When I'm dealing with others, be compassionate. Got it. But what does compassion look like exactly? And am I compassionate in the same way to everybody, or different for different people? Okay? So a possible objection is it's too general. It might be wrong, it might be right, but it doesn't show me how to put it into practice. Okay? But this is Taoism's response. So a great way in philosophy and in life to understand yourself and understand other people's ideas is always, like I said before, take the idea and just try to understand what it means before you accept it or reject it. Then once you understand what the idea means, play it out. See what the consequences or implications of it are. Then raise a possible objection. Not you're wrong because, but if you're right, then don't you also mean these other things? And might those other things be sort of issues for you? Then what I'm doing here, we go a step further and we go, okay, try in a good faith, generous way, try to give an answer from the original position that meets those objections and talks with them. Not necessarily proves the objection wrong, but responds to it in an open and humane way. So Taoism here, a good Taoist would say, I totally see what you're saying. I'm open to what you're saying. Let's talk more. And it would say, these rules are deliberately left open. The Tao is a freedom and a flow. It's going with the flow of nature so as to not harm yourself by fighting the flow of nature. If we tried to nail down in words or names exactly what you had to do, not only would we be using names and words, trying to be exact through names and words when we can't be exact, but we would also be limiting your personal freedom, your ability to find a Tao or way that works perfectly for you, but might not work perfectly for me. We would also be going against nature by trying to completely force in advance as if ethics was some sort of algorithm, or whether following the Tao was like following a leader who says, take 20 steps forward, then turn right and take 25 more steps. That's not what freedom is. That's not what following the Tao is. So the Taoist response to the skeptical or objection response that it's too general, you can't live your life this way, is they say we deliberately left it open so that personal freedom would be preserved, so that we did not try to name exactly that which cannot be named exactly, and so that you can understand that the Tao is an open flow. It's not lockstep marching behind a leader. It's not following a computer code or algorithm. It's a path that branches off into many other paths. So the morality has to be open-ended. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's a benefit, not a problem. See, so I just want to, quick point here. Every time an idea seems to have a problem, or every time someone else seems to be wrong, they've usually got a fairly sophisticated response. It doesn't mean you're wrong for being skeptical of their ideas, but if you patiently listen to people, they will usually give you a more robust or complex version of their views. You will understand them better if you philosophically listen to them. That's part of the skill of philosophy is instead of rushing to judgment, I like, I don't like, I accept, I reject, I agree, I disagree, which is just opinion, we say, wait, I'm going to hear this out, like it or not, and then I'm going to have a conversation with them about it where I can learn more about my own ideas and learn more about them. If that's not a life skill, I don't know what is, right? Okay. We're on to section 19. Okay. I read section 19, which says, first people name, then they describe, then they go on to comparing, and then they place one thing first and another thing last. They rank things. But as soon as we start to name, we should stop right there. I read this as saying people have this innate tendency to name things, to try to nail them down so that they can compare and rank them. You see this in science, you see it in business, you even see it in pop culture with celebrities. I've got to know everything about this celebrity so that I can say that Taylor Swift is the best, Taylor Swift is the worst. Right? We want to know things just so that we can rank them and say that one of them is bad. Okay, so people do that, but do you really want to live that way? Okay? Daoism says, what if you stopped, just experience everything as it comes? Instead of slapping a name on it so that you can know it, so that you can say what you do is so great and what others do is so bad, why not just stop at experiencing or naming things? When we rank things, that's just an excuse for people to fight with each other over their ranking. We fight when we disagree about the ranking, and we also fight and try to get the best thing for ourselves so that we can give the worst thing to someone else. That's what happens when people use thinking in order to name, and naming is used in order to rank. It leads us to fight each other. Wouldn't it be better if you just stopped and experienced things, and if it's supposedly the best, great. And if it's supposedly the worst or the last, fine. Why try to control it just in order to fight over that control with other people? So that's how I read the ethical lifestyle implications of a section like 19. Do you see too how deep these ideas can be? We have in our translation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Fewer than 30 words in section 19. And I've been able to talk for a few minutes about the depth of that idea, how it could really give you peace and tranquility, how it could help you get along better with other people, and how it's even more true to the world, because if you try to force a name on everything, you're going to misname certain things. There's so much that can be expanded out of a short idea in philosophy. A whole life can be enclosed in these 30 words if you're willing to look for it and listen for it. Okay. So we're nearly done here. These sections 20 to 27, the last sections that we'll cover today, are really about ethics. Okay, and we're about to enter into another discussion question here. Okay, I'm going to read some bits of 20 and 21, and then I'll ask about how we might make that a practice, a thing we do in our lives. So 20 says, "Fill yourself with emptiness. Embrace internal tranquility. The 10,000 things, the infinite many things out there in the universe, see how they arise and flow. They grow, they change, then they return to the source. That is, they die and return to the earth. And you can sit in the stillness in the center and watch them." That's 20. 21, much shorter, just says, "Be aware, observe, notice. Appreciate the small. Find flavor in the delicate." I want to ask, in terms of the ethics we've been talking about, ethics as a way of life, a way to enrich and give meaning to your life, do you think you could form a practice around sections like these? And by practice, what I mean, if you do yoga, it'd be practice in a sense like that. I don't do yoga, but I hear plenty about it. Or a practice in here, what I mean is something very concrete, a very real thing that you do. So some people have journaling as a practice. They take 15 minutes every day. At the end of their day, they write down what happened and how they feel. Okay? And they do that because they want to remember better, or they want to sort out their ideas and understand them better at the end of the day, or they do it just because it's soothing and relax them at the end of the day. Okay, so I want to steal examples from you. Okay, I want you to give me, in this discussion question, examples of a practice. If sections 20 and 21 show us how to do Daoism, how to flow, and are a guide, what specifically can you think of that might be a way to put this into practice in your life? Okay, a way to do the ideas examined here, not just understand them. Okay, so here's the discussion question. Okay, if we were going to put sections 20 and 21 into action, into doing in our lives, what might it look like? And please be as specific as possible. Would it be indoors or outdoors? Would it be in a specific place? Is it something you could do with people? Is it something you would have to do alone? Would you focus on the bodies, the senses in your body, how you're feeling physically? Or would you focus on mental, imaginary flights of fancy? Maybe you'd do both, right? So this is what, focus on those kinds of things. Decide for specifics for and against. I think it'd work better inside, or I think it'd work better outside with 3 other people. How might something like this be done in order to achieve the good things that Daoism says it could achieve by doing this? Okay? So once more, just to state it, and then we'll pause the recording. If we're going to make a practical experience out of sections 20 and 21, what would that look like? And please be as specific as possible so that I can really see what you mean with concrete details. So please make a practice, a thing we could do that would live out sections 20 and 21. Okay, pause the recording now and write that down, please. Okay, you've taken some time to write down your ideas there. That's very good. I'm looking forward to reading those. Really, I hope you know that I love teaching this class, but our discussion is one of my favorite spots because I have no idea what you will come up with. And in this class, a lot of you will come up with very different ideas. And when I teach this again, new students will come up with new ideas. So it's always exposing me to different interpretations of the reading. Okay. We're nearly done with this recording. Just a few more examples of ethics. 22 says, be soft and be flexible, bend. 23 says, yield to force and you might prevail. If you can bend, you can be preserved unbroken. If you flex and bend, you can be kept straight overall. Okay? 23 and passages around it, it inverts a lot of the ordinary values that you and I have in the West. Okay? It sort of overturns what we normally think of as good and bad. Okay? That's very philosophy to me. Part of a way to define philosophy is that it's simply not the ordinary reflex way of viewing the world. What that means is that philosophy is often deliberately out of step or contrary to the common, ordinary, everyday. So, Daoism can invert normal American values of strength and power and control and dominance, but also, please note, ancient Chinese people also had a desire for power and money and dominance and control, mastery of nature and mastery of themselves. Okay? So, what these final sections of our reading today, about 20 to 27 in there, most of those, is they take things we take for granted as being good. Of course strength is good. Who'd want to be weak? But it flips it and it says, well, doesn't your experience show you that sometimes the thing which is soft lasts longer? Doesn't your experience show you, 24, that water strives for nothing but actually transforms powerfully everything? That water's the softest of all things, but it grinds down rock? That it resists nothing, you can push it away, but it itself is irresistible? So it's this sort of inversion we all feel as a sort of reflex or everyday feeling, that power and strength are good, but maybe a different kind of power can be got by being less obviously strong. Once more, that's something philosophy commonly does. It inverts your world, it flips it over. It asks you maybe what you think is good is bad, maybe what you think is bad is good. Now, this is part of the value. It's both what philosophy does, it flips the world topsy-turvy, but it's also the value of the world, is it can get you thinking and therefore living in new ways that might be better for you. Not by telling you what to do, but by posing questions to you. What if what you thought was good was in fact bad? What if you thought was important was actually unimportant? And then letting you think up new ideas for yourself in response. Okay. So, 23, one of the ethical things here that we can see is at the end of 23, it says, those with little can receive much, those with much can be confused. This could probably apply to anything, correct? But what if we applied it to money? What if we applied it to possessions? Wouldn't this topsy-turvy flip over the American world? Right? And maybe you'd actually benefit from this flipping. Think about what a lot of people say about money. They say, I don't want a 10,000 person follower list. I don't need fake friends, no new friends, right? Because they want quality over quantity. They want quality people who've been down from day one, not just more and more and more friends. Well, Daoism would support that. But Daoism would actually say also, why don't you apply that to money? Why do you want quantity of money instead of quality of life? Do you really want $1 million so you can buy 1 million brand new things that you'll just forget about? Like, I literally have so many t-shirts that when I'm looking through my t-shirts, I'll see a t-shirt and I'll be, oh yeah, I forgot I had that. I probably don't need a 10,000 other t-shirt, right? But I forget that in my zeal to acquire more things, I forget that quality should come out over quantity or number. But even if we believe that, we don't necessarily apply it to money. People ruin their quality of life. They study something they don't want to study in college. They spend less time with their family. They get more stressed out for their job so that they can have more, which Daoism would say might only confuse you. If you made less money, probably every little gift you got from a friend, every happy day, every little fancy meal out, if you're broke, probably feels like receiving very, very much. But you would need to have very little for it to feel like very much. If you have very much, you're just going to confuse it altogether. You're going to forget it, and you're going to degrade other parts of your life, degrade the quality of it, just so that you can have more and more and more quantity. To me, that's an ethical way of life that this kind of passage implies. It's part of the value of philosophy that it can flip the obvious into a question, and sometimes that question can make us reevaluate our lives and want to live differently. So, final sort of inversion or evaluation. Sections 25 and 24 start this idea of what we'll call non-action. It's acting without acting. It's this sort of paradox, and it's a paradox or a question that should help us rethink our own lives. So 25 says, be like the newborn boy child. He does just what he should be doing at each moment. He's completely natural. End quote. So the baby's not in charge. The baby's not strong. But the baby is doing exactly what it naturally should be doing at every moment. It doesn't overthink. It doesn't push. And we might say these things about the baby. The baby's soft and passive. But Daoism is going to say, but maybe passivity and softness aren't strictly passive. Or maybe they're not strictly bad. All things to act have to be partly passive. All good action is going to involve partly non-action. Letting something happen, not just forcing something to happen. Okay? You need the passivity of the earth if you're going to run fast and run far. You need it to not act so you can act with it to take yourself where you want to go. And look, babies are usually very happy. Infants are happy because they go with whatever comes naturally. Your activity, your strength, your hardness maybe don't benefit you quite as much as you think they do. They're probably making you less happy than the baby boy child who's natural. Right? Okay. So we see in 26 as well, it's a big idea in Daoism. Section 26 is about the non-action. Okay? Non-action doesn't mean not acting. It means acting with the appropriate amount of passivity and activity mixed together. So 26 says the sage, the wise person, is cautious. They're careful. Now this doesn't mean that they do nothing. Careful means you take your time to do what you do. It means you watch and you listen before acting. You listen and you look before you leap. Okay? The wise person acts, but they act with some non-action mixed in. They're not a frenzy of go, 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 get her done, aggro energy. Okay? Instead of grabbing and squeezing what they want, they let it come to them. And they're happier and more powerful for it. Okay? So these are some of the inverted or flipped over values that we can see in Daoism. And it's something I want you to consider. Okay? Just consider that sometimes the best way to act to get what you want is to mix in a little non-action. Sometimes the greatest show of strength is like that of water, where you're soft, not strong. Okay? Just consider those kinds of ideas and think about how they might impact your life. Okay, thank you everyone.